Big Mike here with
Hayes Entertainment.
Today's episode. We got the greatest of all time. We got Grant Fuhr, 5-time Stanley Cup champ.
If you like what we're doing, you hit the subscribe button.
Hi, I'm Grant Fuhr, 5-time Stanley Cup champion, and I'm coming on the You Only Touch Greatness podcast.
If you're looking for a mug, perhaps a hoodie, head on over to IOnlyTouchGreatness.com.
This is the hottest place. Big name interviews in Vancouver with Ryan Hayes and Big Mike.
This is I Only Touch Greatness podcast with Ryan Hayes and Big Mike.
Ryan Hayes and Big Mike are taking over the podcast scene in Vancouver. Get down or lay down. Lay down. Lay down.
Yeah, this is Big Mike, by the way, and I'm Ryan.
Hey, Grant, thank you very much for taking the time today for us. We really appreciate it. It means the world to us.
No problem.
And thank you.
We're just going to ask you a bunch of questions about hockey, obviously.
You know, it works for me.
Yeah.
What made you get into hockey in the first place? And did you play any other sports growing up?
Let's see. What got me into hockey? Probably a love of the game. I mean, I saw goalie equipment right out of the gate and thought it was kind of cool. And all the kids I grew up with played, so I thought it'd be a good idea and fell in love with it right out of the gate. As for other sports, I played a lot of baseball as a kid. And that seemed to be the two things. During the summer, you played baseball. During the winter, you played hockey.
Okay.
And you were raised in Spruce Grove, Alberta, correct?
Born and raised.
Yeah. What was life like growing up there?
You know what? It's a great spot. And I think to get raised somewhere in a small town where the kids, kids got an opportunity to play as much sports as we wanted. I mean, I think that was the fun part back then is you didn't have to play with just one team. You could play with 3 or 4 different teams, and it was a big benefit.
Okay. And any nicknames, and why'd you wear jersey number 31?
Oh, I've had Coco as a nickname forever. I got that in junior from a couple of veteran guys we had out in Victoria, and 31's the number I had in Victoria, so we just kind of took a shining to it.
Okay.
Hey,
good choice.
How'd you come up with that nickname? I had it later in my questions, but
you know what? I'm a little better tan than most of the guys, so that's where it came from.
yeah, and I saw that note as well. You played out west here in Victoria. You went to the Memorial Cup, correct?
I did my second year there. First year we lost in the Western Final to Regina.
Okay.
Can you take me back to 1981 draft day when you were drafted 8th overall to the Edmonton Oilers?
You know, for me, it was an exciting day. I mean, I went down to the draft. I think it was in Montreal that year. So actually roomed with Al McInnes at the draft. And, you know, every kid hopes to be drafted, but you don't know really whether you will, you won't. But to get drafted, and for me, it was extra special because I got drafted and got to come home and play pro. So kind of a cool moment.
Did you know they were interested? Like, did you talk to them much before the draft?
I had no idea. I hadn't talked to them at all. That was the funny part. Back then, you didn't have the draft interviews. So,
how did the draft go back then? Like something behind the scenes?
You know what? My agent at the time, had 3 or 4 clients that went down to the draft, and you go to the draft and you just hope to hear your name called. So at that time, I had no idea where I was going in the draft or even if I'd get drafted.
And then obviously in 1983, you went to the finals, happened to lose that one. What learning lessons came from that?
You know what? For myself, I didn't get a chance to play in the finals in 83. So it was neat to see a Stanley Cup final, but at the same time, it's a learning experience. And I think as a team, we learned. I mean, the unfortunate saying goes, you got to lose to learn how to win. So we had some growing lessons. The Islanders were successful, very disciplined team, and they paid a steeper price than we did, and we learned that.
And Andy Moog was the goalie, I believe, which my stats are correct on this one. Andy Moog was the goalie, and you were backing him up that year.
He was, and Andy played great.
Yeah,
it's just the Islanders were a little bit better than we were at that time. Probably a little more experienced than we were at that time. We were still pretty young and fresh around the years, so we had a little bit of growing to do.
And then 84 is when Stather chose you in the playoffs. Is that correct?
That was my chance to have a run at it. So I had a run at it my first year and didn't play very well. Against the Kings, I think I lost my first one 10-8, won a couple 3-2, lost, what did we lose, 6-5 in overtime, and then lost 7-4. So short-lived playoff. But no, in 84, I get a chance to redeem myself a little bit, and obviously things went pretty well.
Yeah, that was your first Stanley Cup.
Yeah, it was the start of a good run.
Hell yeah, it was. I remember those even as a kid from the watching on TV. Everybody was an Oilers fan in the 90s or the 80s, sorry, excuse me.
You know what? It was a great time to be an Oiler. I mean, one, we had a great group of guys that just enjoyed being with each other. We like to have fun, and we like to win. So it's a pretty good combination.
Might as well go with the next one then. What was it like playing with Gretzky?
Awesome. I mean, one of the more fortunate guys. I get to play with them in Edmonton. I played with them in LA. I played with them in St. Louis. I get to coach with them. So kind of spoiled on that side of things.
Oh yeah, I got those questions coming up here a little later. But hey, you were in net, I believe, for the Steve Smith goal, right? When he scored on
that would be me.
Oh yeah. What was the thoughts in the dressing room after that? Did you guys want to kill him, or I know it was just a fluke mistake, but
you know what? It's in the game of hockey. You get good bounces, you get bad bounces. For us, that was just one of those bad bounces, and if anything, it let us refocus and made us better the next year to try and eliminate putting us in a position where a bad bounce could beat us. So another learning experience for us.
5-time Stanley Cup champ, obviously, but did one stick out more than the other to you?
No, you know what? They're all special in their own way. I think that's the fun part, because different things happen at different times over the course of the year, and you do it with different players. So they're all special in their own little way.
Hey, right to this, what's it like being the first Black person to win the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, obviously a great honor. I mean, I just feel fortunate that I'm kind of the benefactor of guys like Tony McKegney, Willie O'Ree, Bill Riley, Mike Marson, Val James, guys like that. They kind of went through the hard times through the 50s, 60s, 70s. I mean, I was lucky enough to play in the 80s and play in Canada, so I didn't have to deal with a whole lot. So I'm kind of the benefactor of their pain and suffering, if you want to put it that way.
Hopefully not, but was there much racism when you were going through them?
You know, you get called the odd name here or there, but for the most part, no. I mean, I was pretty fortunate playing in Canada. I think there was a lot more of a U.S. issue at that time. But at the same, it's there. It's just you try and ignore it. And with the group of guys we had, we were pretty insulated.
Okay.
And I mean, you guys had Semenko out there for a couple of years, so I wouldn't want to be messing around.
Well, that was the beauty of our team. We could play a game any way you wanted to. I mean, you got Semenko, you've got Tony Jackson, Kevin McClellan, Marty McSorley, or you could play the skill side of it if you wanted to. So we could play it any way any team wanted to play.
Oh, yeah, and you got the Gretzky and the Curry and the Coffee, and yeah, you guys were loaded. Those were some fun years to watch hockey.
So you had the best tandems always when you were in Edmonton, at least. So first Andy Moog and then Bill Ranford as well, correct?
Yep. I mean, I was lucky. I played with great partners everywhere I went.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the fun part is I had Andy to start with. I actually had Ronnie Lowe, who taught me a lot my first year. Then I had Andy, who obviously without Andy, I wouldn't have been as good as I was because he pushed me to be better. Then once we traded Andy, I had Billy Ranford, another great goalie in his own right. I go to Toronto, we get Felix Potvin there. I go to Buffalo, I get Dominic Hasek there. I go out to LA and Kelly Rudy's there. St. Louis, we had Bruce Racine, and then we traded for Johnny Casey.
Yeah.
And then in Calgary, I finished with Freddie Brathwaite. So all great partners.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Those are some great goalies.
Yeah, and like the next 10 of my questions are just taken out there.
Did you have any pregame? Did you have any pregame meals or rituals?
You know what? I like to have spaghetti on game days, but the only ritual I had was my little nap in the afternoon. It's the best 2 hours of sleep you get ever.
What describes that feeling of winning the Stanley Cup?
I'm not sure there's a feeling that can describe it. I mean, obviously, as a kid growing up in Canada, everybody dreams of winning a Stanley Cup. And I think to finally accomplish it, you almost kind of miss the pleasure of it. You don't really take the time to enjoy it and go through it. I enjoy it more now that I'm retired than I did when I played because you're gearing to win again the next year. So you don't really take the time to enjoy it. It's a lot more fun now when you look back at it, watch highlights of it. You get a chance to actually sense the joy of it.
And you were the goalie also in the 87 Canada Cup. What was that like when you beat the Russians? Or the
You know what? It's always fun when you get to play for your country. I think that's the fun part. But I got a taste of it in 84 and played part of the games in the Canada Cup there. And then in 87, getting to play all the games. I mean, obviously, you want to do well for your country. I think that's the biggest thing first and foremost. And for me, it was a lot of fun. I mean, and not to mention, I get to play with the greatest group of players talent-wise that there is.
Yeah.
Who did you mirror your game after growing up or like try and play like?
You try to mix a little everybody. I mean, I was a Glenn Hall fan, a Tony Esposito fan. So anybody that you could watch on TV, you try and pick little things up. And back then they didn't have goalie coaches, so you just tried to add whatever came into your mind. So it was a mix of everybody.
Did you have a favorite song to listen to or anything like that, or any ritual before the game?
No, actually, I played a lot of ping pong before the game.
Fun?
We had a ping pong table in the dressing room at Edmonton, so it's not so much listening to music. We played ping pong and basically got ready for a game that way.
Okay.
Where's your favorite venue to play?
You know what? I kind of like the old original 6 buildings. I used to love Maple Leaf Gardens. The Boston Garden was fun to play in. Chicago Stadium was a really neat building to be in. So I'm an old original 6 guy.
You won the Vezina in 87, 88. What's it like being recognized as, at that time, as the number 1 goalie in the league? Now you're obviously the greatest goalie of all time, but.
You know what? It was a lot of fun. And obviously winning Stanley Cups are more important, but at the same time, it's nice to be recognized for what you accomplished that year. So yeah, it was kind of a nice kicker to have winning a cup and having that added on at the end.
Yeah.
What's been your go-to quarantine snack?
Oh, I'm a dill pickle chip fan. I hate to admit that, but my waistline will fully admit it. But the funny part is it's hard down here to get dill pickle chips. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
Where do you live now?
I'm down in Palm Springs, California.
Oh, okay.
So it's a little tougher to find dill pickle chips, but we find ways.
Does Amazon deliver those, you wonder?
Target will deliver them down here. Otherwise, I've got lots of friends in Canada, so I still find ways.
Yeah.
Go
ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say a couple Oilers I loved watching, obviously growing up. I'd love to hear a story of, if possible, like a curry and a coffee and maybe like a Tikkanen.
How about Bernie Nichols? We have him coming on Tuesday.
Bernie and I are good friends. We play a little bit of golf together here and there. So, I mean, he was fun to play against.
How's his golf game?
Bernie's golf game's good.
Oh,
I
it
mean,
is?
oh yeah, he'll never tell you he's good, but Bernie's a good player, very consistent. So that's the fun part about Bernie. We enjoy hanging out together.
Can you tell us
Okay,
a story about Gretzky?
You know what? Gretz could be the nicest human being you'd ever meet. I mean, everybody knows him for how good of an athlete he is, but he is one of the nicest people that you'll ever meet. And that's the great thing about him is he's just a normal, down-to-earth guy.
Do you have a curry or a coffee story?
Koff was a lot of fun to hang out. I still enjoy hanging out with Koff. I mean, I think that's one of the great things about basically our whole team of the 80s is that the guys have stayed close to each other. I mean, you can pick up the phone, you can call any of them, and we're still all good friends. And when we get together, it's like the dressing room never ended. You pick up your conversations right where they left off, and we still think we're young, which apparently we're not anymore. So things kind of pick up right where they left off. It's just the mornings aren't quite as cheerful.
Yeah, I hear you.
Hey, we got another friend of the show, Kelly Rudy. Of course, he's been on. Great guy. We're going to have him back on. You got any good stories about him we can get out of you?
Oh, you have to ask Kelly about the Gretzky tour that we took. I think it was 94 when we went over to Europe during the lockout.
Oh, he told us his story, but yeah, let's hear your side.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Kelly and I were the two goalies. So the fun part was you knew you were playing every second game. So one night would be your night to have some fun, drink some wine, enjoy the sights. The next game you had to play. So every second night you got a night off, which was the fun part about it.
I remember that actually, that whole tour. You got traded to the Leafs after being reinstated. How was your time in Toronto?
You know what? I enjoyed it. Growing up in Edmonton as a little kid, you could only see either Toronto or Montreal on Saturday nights. So being out west, we were all Leaf fans. So if I couldn't play in Edmonton, the next best thing was to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. So for me to get traded to Toronto was kind of living the second half of a dream. So I felt pretty fortunate to be able to come to Toronto. And yeah, the first year the team wasn't very good, but the team got better and better. And I think that was the fun part.
How crazy.
And then,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
How crazy is the Toronto market?
You know what? It's hockey crazy. And I love that. And Edmonton was the same way, but maybe not on as big a scale. But you got to love playing in a crazy hockey market. I think that's the fun part. Yeah, there's a little bit of pressure that goes with it, but that's what makes it fun. There's expectations.
Yeah.
And then in 93, you got moved to the Sabres. You were there for the Mayday goal, were you not?
I was there for that.
That's another friend of the show.
Another Ontario boy.
Yeah. Good kid.
No, going to Buffalo was good because John Muckler was the coach and general manager down there at that time. And I'd had Muck in Edmonton, so I knew what I was getting into right away, which made things very comfortable going there.
Hey, was there a favorite player in Buffalo? And what was it like mentoring Dom when he was coming up?
You know what? I'm not so sure it was mentoring Dom as knowing how good Dom was. He just needed an opportunity to show it. I mean, I saw Dom in the Canada Cup in '84. So you knew he had talent. It was just a matter of Chicago. He didn't really get a chance to show it. So he went to Buffalo. With him and I there, he finally got an opportunity to show it. And everybody got to see how good Dom really was.
And he sure was that. He's really good.
And then 95, traded to LA, reuniting with the great one.
Actually reuniting with about, I think there were 6 or 7 of us in there that played for the Oilers. Because Koff was there. Who else was there? Koff, Marty, Patty Conacher, Charlie Huddy, Mike Kruzhelnicki. And I know I'm probably missing 1 or 2 more. So
your memory's pretty good, though.
Yeah, for an old guy, it's not bad.
Yeah, I had to put the Kings jersey on for this segment.
But yeah, you know what? It was a lot of fun to go to LA. I mean, it was the last year of my contract at that time. So it was a chance to play a little bit and figure out whether I need to settle in as a backup somewhere or whether I thought I could still play or not. So turned out that still had a few more years left in me.
Because you definitely had a resurgence.
You know what? I was lucky to sign in St. Louis. It was a good situation. I mean, I missed the memo at the beginning when they traded Curtis Joseph that he had just won most popular player. So I missed that memo right out of the gate. So that put things a little behind the 8 ball to start with. The fact that I carry a couple extra pounds into training camp every year, Mike decided to make an issue out of that. So we get off to a flying start in St. Louis. But at the same time, I knew I could still play and I was comfortable. And I think that was the biggest thing, is that by that time in my career, I was comfortable in my own skin and I knew I could play. And Mike was good enough to let me play as much as I wanted. Well, if you let me play as much as I want, I'll play every day.
Another question for you, sports memorabilia wise, were you able to keep all your stuff? I know Kelly Rudy told us that once Gretzky came to LA with him, Gretzky said, hey, make sure in your contract you stipulate that you can keep all your jerseys and all your pads and all that stuff.
You know what? All I really wanted was a jersey from each team and all my masks.
Okay.
So I've been pretty lucky. I've kept that. I mean, I've got bits and pieces of equipment from different teams and that sort of thing. Enough that if I really wanted to play again, I could throw gear on. But the masks were the big thing.
Yeah, your masks were always pretty cool. That's for sure.
Oh yeah,
that's the fun part as a goalie. And I get to play in an era where you get to wear the full face mask, so a little more colorful, look better with the uniform.
Yeah, you had that awesome mask that you used for the cover of your movie a couple of years ago, the Coco movie.
Yeah, that's still my favorite mask.
Yeah.
I mean, my first one was good, but my second one was much better. It's pretty much, people know that mask more than they know my face, so it's not a bad thing.
And as you were saying about how you got the chance to play, if you got the chance to play, you would want to play every single game. Right here, I got a record for you. You played the most games in a season at 79 games.
Yeah, we managed to squeeze 79 in that first year in St. Louis.
Holy Jesus. We're talking about 60-40 splits nowadays.
No, I know. Now they micromanage time. Back then, Mike was good enough to just let me play. I mean, I would love to have gotten all 82 in. That was kind of my goal. So we only missed by 3.
Yeah.
Well, no wonder you came to training camp a couple extra pounds heavy. I mean, you had to play 78 games. You knew you were going to lose it.
Oh, we'd lost it early. So by the end, I was looking like a little starved by the end of the year.
You got one, Mike? I got a couple.
Yeah. And then obviously 99 traded to Calgary to mentor Brathwaite. What was that like? And obviously getting your 400th win against the Panthers.
You know what? Going to Calgary was interesting just because of all the years in the Battle of Alberta. But at the same time, Brian Sutter was the coach there. And I was friends with Brian and had a lot of respect for Brian. I knew that he's a no-nonsense guy, so it was going to be a good situation. And my mom was from Calgary. So for me to go there and finish my career made perfect sense.
Yeah, and it was nice to come back to Canada and get to play out on a high horse, I guess, as you would say.
You know what? I started in Northern Alberta and I finished in Southern Alberta. So the start and the finish of my career in my home province, you can't ask for more than that.
Do you still have that puck from the 400th win?
Sitting somewhere in my collection of stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
Still around.
You have a nice collection of stuff. I got my next question is, what's your favorite piece of memorabilia?
The masks are still my favorite piece.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll always be my favorite piece. I mean, I've got odds and ends lying around, and the kids have a few things. But
yeah, Rudy said the same thing. His masks were his everything. He says he's got a whole storage container in his back of his house that's just full of his crap.
Oh, I have a storage container that's full of crap.
Hey, who was that told us that they would sell all their stuff if the right offer came along? Would you ever take an offer like that?
Tim Hunter.
Maybe when I get really old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure my kids would have a lot to say about that. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we actually met you. We actually met you last year or 2 years ago, and I guess now would be at in Langley at the Sports Memorabilia show.
Yeah, I remember being up there.
Yeah, it was a good time.
It was actually a lot of fun.
It was.
Do you come back here often, or into Canada back and forth, or not with COVID?
Normally, yes. Right now, no.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, with things being as crazy as they are, I haven't been up in probably since Langley.
Okay.
So I normally get up at least 2 or 3 times a year to see my kids and see friends. But this year's been kind of a bizarre year. So hopefully we get things straightened around here a little bit and I can get up and visit before Christmas.
Yeah.
What was it like doing your documentary, Coco?
You know what? It was a lot of fun. Donnie Metz and Adam Scorgi, the 2 gentlemen that did it with me, were great. Donnie'd been around since I turned pro. So he had all the video footage and all the documentary and all that fun stuff. But to sit back and look at your life, and there's parts I'd forgotten about. So to sit and go through all the footage and go back through different things, it was actually kind of cool, especially when you know the answer of how everything turned out.
Do you have a favorite movie about sports?
What do I like? Still a big fan of Slapshot. It's still one of my favorites. It's hard not to have that as one of your favorites.
You guys watched it on the bus for so many years and back in the day. And I mean, it's been such a good one. Even the young kids that we interview, they always say Slapshot as well.
Oh yeah, but I still get a kick out of it when I watch it. So
Oh yeah, it's always good for a laugh.
it is good. What's the other one? 42 is a pretty good movie too.
Jackie Robinson.
Yeah,
It is.
That's a pretty good movie too.
Yeah.
So
How many guys smoked back in the day? Out of curiosity, like you always hear about Mario Lemieux hacking darts in between periods, and Danny Markov. Like, I'm just curious, did a lot of guys smoke back then?
what did we have? We had 2 or 3.
Okay.
Sit and have a cigarette between periods. So that would have been that was what, 80, 81. So
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, we had 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Guido Fuhr, I think, smoked too.
Yeah, he smoked through his whole career.
Yeah, he smoked I believe he left the skates on and would go out there and hack a dart.
The game's changed just a little.
Yeah.
Oh,
now
yeah.
You're not even allowed to smoke 6 feet from the entrance. Yeah.
Did any guys drink back then?
Oh, I think we might have had a couple of guys that liked to have a drink back then, like most of us.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I meant like during the game, obviously.
Oh,
Like,
not
go have
during
a
the
beer,
game. No.
but go have a beer between periods, or a couple beers before the game, or
Yeah, no,
No.
that didn't happen.
okay.
I guess that's why I play beer league. Yeah, what was it like to be the goalie coach in Phoenix? Did you ever think about going back into that?
You know what? I really enjoyed it. But when I left Phoenix, it was time for a little bit of a break. But yeah, now I would love to go back and coach again. I enjoy being around the game, and the game's the greatest game in the world. So it's fun to be around.
Yeah.
And I still think playing goal is the best position there is in any sport. So yeah, I'd love to be involved and be goalie coach again somewhere again.
How many days a week are you golfing down there in Palm Springs?
Well, normally I would play a couple of days a week, but since COVID hit, I've probably squeezed in about 5 days a week.
Awesome. What's the main reasons or 3 reasons you like being a part of a team sport back in the day?
I think the biggest reason is your teammates. I think first and foremost is they're like family. And I think that's the biggest thing that we were brought up with in Edmonton is it was all about family. You're going to see them every day. You're going to be around them more than your natural family. So it was a good grouping to have. And we kind of lived by that rule back then. So your teammates for one, a love of the game is another. And team sports, you grow as a person. I think that's the biggest thing is over the years, you grow as a person.
2003, big year for you. Inducted into the Hall of Fame, and your jersey retired in Edmonton. What are the thoughts on that and emotions with that?
You know what? That was really cool. I mean, one, you never think you're going to play in the National Hockey League. So I got lucky enough to do that. Got lucky enough to have some success while we're playing, but to get inducted into the Hall of Fame was pretty cool. I mean, that's kind of the whipped cream on top of the 20 years. So that was a lot of fun, but the night getting the jersey retired, that's something you never, ever expect. So that was really cool, especially to do it at home. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is I got to do it at home in front of friends and family. So that makes it even extra special.
Yeah, they're running out of numbers in Edmonton because of your dream dynasty team there.
Yeah, not a bad problem to have.
No, it's a good problem to have. Gretzky
Gretzky
said, Oh yeah, we're
Go
gonna
ahead.
shoot the same question.
Gretzky's said numerous times that you're the greatest of all time. How do you feel about him saying that kind of thing?
You know what? It's a great compliment. But at the same time, I still think there's guys that were better than I was. I mean, I look at guys like back even before me, the Terry Sawchucks, Glenn Hall, guys like that. I mean, they were my idols growing up. So I would consider them to be better than I was. I'm just happy to be in the same conversation with them. I mean, I think that's the fun part.
Could you imagine if you had butterfly goalie back then?
It would have been interesting. I mean, I sort of butterflied, but not really. So it was kind of in the transition of things. I mean, Tony Esposito was probably the biggest butterflyer of my time. And I only got a chance to play against him 1 year, but you look at some guys before that, the Roger Croziers, you look at the way Glenn Hall played. It was kind of a combination of stand up and butterfly or half. I used to be a half butterfly at that time.
Yeah.
But you get to see more of a hybrid.
And then,
How much did
Dominic Hasek came in, then you just threw the whole book out the window.
That's more of a stop, drop, and roll system.
Yeah. There's a fire out in your house.
Tim Thomas kind of played the same kind of game. Obviously not as good as Hasek, but
And Timmy liked to be really aggressive. I mean, I think that was one thing about his style is he was very aggressive. And I think over the course of time, you learn different styles, and sometimes you're aggressive, sometimes you're a little more passive. And the more you can give teams different looks, the more they have to guess as to what you're going to do.
how much did the gear change over the years for you? Because you obviously played a long time.
Most of my gear didn't change a whole lot, but you could see the transitioning of gear. I mean, it got lighter and lighter and lighter. And of course, everybody complained that it was getting bigger. Well, if it gets lighter, guys are going to wear it bigger. I mean, that's the easiest thing about it is the lighter it got, the easier it was to wear. I mean, I could never get used to the really light stuff because I wore heavy stuff my whole career. So my version of light and most light didn't really work together. So I liked it a little bit heavier, but you could see why guys were wearing it bigger and bigger.
Oh, those old pads that you guys had, those things are heavy as heck. I remember being a goalie playing minor hockey, and they're the same, roughly probably the same era, and I had to wear those goalie pads. It's like bricks on your legs.
I start off at about 7 or 8 pounds. By the time the night's done, they're closer to 14 or 15.
Yeah.
Ours would never ever get a chance to dry out because you play every day. Yeah. So you were lugging around 15 or 20 pounds every night.
That's because you were probably only about 4'5" then and 60 pounds holding a fart then, Ryan.
Hey, there's a picture. Hey, I'll have to plug the picture, and there's a picture of me standing there in 1990, and I don't even come to like the halfway point in the net, but I've got all the goalie gear on like this and just a tiny little body.
About the same size as Panger.
Yeah. Hey, we've been talking to him too about coming on, so that's a good joke.
Oh no, Panger's a good man.
Yeah. All right.
Most assists and most points as a goalie with 61. That's pretty impressive.
I'd like to say I was a playmaker, but a lot of it was just kicking rebounds into the right areas and stopping a puck for Koff and getting out of the way. I mean, you learn to read the offense that our team had. So it was a matter of just directing pucks in the right spots.
Shit.
What was it like playing with Cement Head?
Cement was awesome. I mean, he was one of the greatest people we had in our team. Probably the class clown. I mean, he had the greatest dry sense of humor, kept the guys light, but at the same time, our best players could be our best players because they knew he was there. So he definitely made everybody feel like they were bigger.
He was our Canucks version of Gino Ojic when he protected Bure.
Same idea. I mean, you want your best player to be your best player. Well, if he doesn't have to worry about looking over his shoulder, he can perform at his highest level. So that was the great thing about Edmonton. Yes, we had stars, but we had the guys that could let the stars be the stars.
Also didn't have the instigator rule, which everybody's scared of now.
Yeah, unfortunately, they wanted to try and take that away. But at the same time, you want a product where your best players can be your best players. You don't want guys taking liberties and cheap shots with them. So the best way to cure that is to have somebody that can whisper in somebody's ear. You don't have to fight anybody.
Yeah.
But if a guy goes down and whispers in somebody's ear that they might have to pay a price, it's funny how all that stuff stops.
Absolutely. Yeah, I miss that old school hockey. I truly do.
Well, players will always police the players better than anybody in a suit will.
How do you think we're
So
going to
that's-
do with fans next year?
I'm kind of hoping they have fans. I mean, in one sense, the game will still survive, but it's better with fans and it's better for the ownership. I mean, and the owners are what's going to keep the game running. So you want it to be a win-win.
And you look at football, they're having a few fans, 7,000 or something. And
They're running about 20%.
Yeah.
So I mean, even if you can go at 20%, it's nice to have fans in the building.
And I spend $100 a Canuck game on booze and food. So they're making their money on me every time.
You wouldn't be alone. There's a lot of people that by the time you take a family to a game, you have hamburgers, hot dogs, Cokes, you're $400 or $500 in.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That new goal they're scoring in the new hockey, the Michigan goal or the lacrosse goal, they call it. How hard do you think that would have been to defend as a goalie?
I would bet that the first time somebody tried it on Billy Smith, they might be short an arm. So back then, there's some of the goalies wouldn't have taken it so well. So they'd be a little more careful about trying that back in the 80s.
Yeah, Hextall would take your head off.
You wouldn't have to worry about an arm. You might lose other appendages.
Yeah. Hey, did you ever have any goalie fights?
No, that's the beauty of our team. We were well protected. So, and I'm not nearly big enough. I mean, at 5'9", you're not really going to fight anybody. So we're pretty fortunate that way.
I'm out there.
What was the best?
I'm out there at beer league, 5 feet tall, trying to fight people all the time.
What was the best chirp you ever had back in the day?
The best trip?
Chirp.
Like, chirp. You know what? I like to joke and talk with guys when we're playing against them. I mean, some of the guys are so serious they hate being talked to. So as you become friends with guys, it's fun to talk to them during the game, talk to them during whistles, just to see if you can get their attention. Because you know if you get their attention, that they're not paying attention to what they're supposed to be doing. So in pileups, like Cam Neely was fun to talk to because he was always so serious. He'd basically tell you what to do with yourself and stop talking to him. So guys like that, a lot of guys like that were fun. Theo Thury was fun. We'd have conversations back and forth. Dougie Gilmore and I would laugh and have fun talking to each other. So
Theo was actually my favorite player growing up. That's why I play like him on the ice, 5 feet tall, dirty. I wear number 14.
You know what? For a guy his size, made a huge impression on the game. Yeah. He's one guy that probably should be in the Hall of Fame. And I'm going to guess in the next 2 to 3 years probably will be.
Yeah, I interviewed him the day after he had just missed this last cut this past year. So, but yeah, I for sure think he makes it in there.
He's got the numbers for it. Plus you look at everything that he's gone through.
Yeah, exactly.
You must have had some fun times in in Buffalo with Barnaby and Ray and May. Like those must have been good times. I know May said he's even fought Barnaby in practice.
Oh yeah, we had a good time at Buffalo. I mean, Maisie and Robbie Ray, I think, came over for Christmas the one year. They were both just young guys in the league. So we had a lot of fun hanging out. It was a good dressing room. We had a lot of fun in the dressing room. We had a good mix of veteran guys, young guys.
Oh, yeah. Those two guys are beauties. They were on the show a couple of weeks ago, not at the same time, but separate. But they were chirping back and forth even on our episodes.
Oh, no, they're both pretty competitive.
Yeah.
I like how Rob Ray has his own rule made with the jersey tie down.
Robbie wore a jersey bigger than I did, and I had all the equipment on. So he was all about getting undressed as quick as possible.
That's for sure. Who's your favorite musician of all time?
My favorite musician of all time. I'm a big Commodores fan. Okay. So going back that way, George Clinton. I was a big fan of George Clinton back in the day. So
I love George Clinton too. I like that one.
Now we're kind of a Nickelback fan. What else do we like? I like a little of everything.
Okay.
So when you guys came to Vancouver, was Roxy still the spot?
The Roxy was still the spot.
Okay.
It was the spot before I started, and it was the spot after I left. Still the spot when I was coaching.
And it's still the spot now. I've actually never even been there. I don't venture that far downtown very often unless it's for a Canuck game, but
Yeah, it's been around forever.
a lot of good times and a lot of things. Oh, my bad. I have been there once. They smoked with Kippersoff in the inside the Roxy.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's how I remember the Roxy now that I think of it.
There's a player that definitely hacked darts in between periods.
Or him and Dion Phaneuf. It was him and Dion Phaneuf smoking in the Roxy smoke pit.
Oh, there you
Do
go.
do you have a personal highlight or low light?
I got lots of highlights. Just playing in the National Hockey League, one's a highlight. I think playing at home more than anything was probably the biggest highlights. I got to play in front of friends, family. I think there's no real lowlights in the game. I mean, yeah, you make some mistakes, you do some dumb things, but they're lessons. So you learn from them. So not really lowlights, they're lessons.
Okay.
But 20 years of playing, 10 years of coaching, so 30 years of hanging around the pro game. A lot of positive.
What do you think?
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, absolutely. I think you did a great job. That's for sure.
Who do you think wins the cup first, the Canucks or the Oilers?
I think it's going to be interesting. I would actually like to see a Canucks Oilers Western final. I'm kind of in a tainted way hoping there's a Canadian division next year where you get to see all the Canadian teams because all the pace of the games will go up tenfold.
That is pretty much what I believe they're doing. I believe they agreed to that a couple of days ago, Mike, if you know that. But for me as a Canuck ticket holder, I want to see all the other teams. So I'm hoping they kind of push us back a year or give us like split our season. Like how they gonna give away if there's only 8,000 fans? You give it to all your full-time season ticket holders, or?
Well, that's the problem they're going to have to figure out.
Yeah.
I mean, from a rivalry standpoint, the Toronto, Montreal, you've got the Edmonton, Calgary, you've got Calgary, Vancouver, you've got Calgary, Winnipeg, you've got Edmonton, Vancouver. The rivalries would be phenomenal.
Yeah, they're all your marquee games too. When you get your ticket package at the year, those are your marquees, your Montreals, your Toronto. If you're going to actually get to see them more than once, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, the old Smythe division, we played everybody 8 times.
Yeah.
So if everybody gets to see all those teams 8, 9 times, you're going to get some rivalries and you're going to get some seriously competitive hockey.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on these players coming out like 20 years later saying that they were kicked or they were punched on the bench or all this stuff from coaches? Like, I feel like if it's something, in my opinion anyways, is if it was something, they should have dealt with it then, not come out 20 years later.
Well, you know what? If it was okay then, but by today's standards, it's not okay. You can't judge what happened 20 years ago by today's standard because the standards are completely different. And I think some of the racial stuff, yeah, you got to leave that. Shouldn't have been then, shouldn't be now. But, somebody punched me in the back or pushed me in the back. Well, back then, it was a different game. Coaches were a little harsher. And you knew that going in. So if it happened to you 10 years ago, all of a sudden you're offended today. I have a bit of a problem with that.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. I'm totally with you on that.
Yeah, that's for sure. Do you see that Michael Jordan documentary?
I did. I enjoyed it.
Good. I'm actually just finished that Oscar Pistorius one that they did a 4-part series.
I haven't seen that one yet. That one would be interesting too.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite football team?
Yeah.
I'm a diehard Packer fan.
Oh.
Okay. My little brother, same thing. Loves them.
Yeah, I'm a Seahawks fan. Mike's a Bengals fan, so he's never won anything.
Yeah, my team's terrible, but we're on the uphill battle. Joe Burrow looks good.
I was gonna say you got a great young quarterback.
Do you follow hockey much? Do you still watch it all the time when you can? Obviously, right now it's not playing, but
yeah, I still watch 3 or 4 games a week.
okay.
I mean, I'm still a diehard fan. I still like to go to games. I'll go to games in Edmonton. I go to games up in LA. I go over to Vegas. I go up to Anaheim. So I go over to Phoenix once in a while. So I still get my share of live hockey in. Plus I watch a lot.
What was the best venue you ever played in? I know he asked you to play in, but
the best venue to play in. The old Winnipeg Arena I had a lot of luck in. It seemed to like me. The old Pacific Coliseum in Vancouver I had a lot of luck in too. That was a fun building.
Oh yeah.
I love the boards in that building, man. When you
Oh, yeah,
got hit, you knew you got hit.
Nice and fast. The old LA Forum was fun.
Oh,
Okay.
Inglewood Farm.
The old Inglewood Forum.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. I'm an old buildings guy.
Yeah. If one word, what could describe you?
One word.
Okay, one sentence.
How about semi-normal? I'm the odd goalie. I still like scoring, and I'm semi-normal.
Yeah, that's usually the thing. The goalies are always the fucked up ones.
Well, they call us the oddballs, but I'm kind of
Yeah.
the normal one.
Yeah. Same as his lacrosse goalie's nuts, and my hockey team goalie's nuts as well. So.
Hey, Grant, I can't thank you enough for taking the time for us today and coming on and chatting about hockey. And obviously we never get the chance to talk to someone like this, and it meant a lot to us.
That's my pleasure.